This video is brought to you by Patreon supporter Scott.
Hello and welcome. With the peaceful and tranquil sounds of rain falling outside with thunder rolling off in the hills, I bring you this one-piece LEUPOLD IMS 35mm mount review. This comes courtesy of Patreon provider Scott, which should be no surprise to many of you out there considering he has just way too much stuff and says, hey, I'm going to send you some stuff to review, to which I am very grateful. Scott, thank you as always. I never really saw much about these mounts until I got it in hand. They're really nice. There's no box, unfortunately, so this is what it is. But what is this? Well, the LEUPOLD IMS stands for Integrated Mounting System, and these on LEUPOLD's site are $350. However, I'm delighted to say that you can find these for around $250 or so. It's still a lot of money, especially for a one-piece mount that doesn't really offer all that much in the way of really nice features. I mean, it's just a mount. There's not much else to really say about it. But there always is, such as the overall fit, finish, and quality of the thing. And I have to say, so far, so good. The finish on this thing, though pre-loved, is beautiful. There are no real markings or imperfections in the anodizing that I could see from the factory. The cross bolts are huge, and even though it's got half-inch nuts, which I'm sure a lot of people out there like, I don't particularly care for them, but I am happy to say that the threads are, without a doubt, the smoothest and the most precise I've ever felt. You don't have to worry about these nuts coming off because the cross bolts are stacked, both pressed and then hit with those three little markings on the side. The locking claws are also a very nice size, roughly 1 inch, which is nice because oftentimes you see them being way too narrow. You have all of this real estate over here, and then you have these tiny little claws that hold it down. Typically, the more surface area you have on two objects, the better the fit will be, and thus the less torque is going to require to keep it in place. Definitely one thing to note is that the two cross bolts are the only things that are interfacing with the pick rail, so keep that in mind if you're looking for something that's going to mediate heavy recoil. As far as everything else, I really like how wide the surface is here. This way, if you do what I do and you put a micrometer or a caliper in there and tilt it up, you'll get the scope nice and square. And then as you can see on top, you have these nothing fancy 4-bolt, fairly narrow actually, caps. This one just so happens to be in 35mm because he sent this with a scope. I'll give you a little tidbit action of what the scope is going to be. It is an IOR Valdata, if I'm pronouncing that right, 2 to 16 by 42. I'm curious to see how well this scope performs because I have never gotten an IOR before and I've only heard good things. I will say that it does protrude on both sides quite a bit, so be mindful of bolt clearance. If you are in the market for something that is less expensive, however, that will clear the rail a little bit better, you have tons of options. Actually, I'll put that right there. One such option for around $150-ish are, of course, Vortex or Seekins precision ring, which, if I put these side by side, you can see just how much narrower they are. Another option are these beautiful American Rifle Company arc rings, which I have been running for quite some time now and are absolutely beautiful. If weight is important to you, you'll be delighted to know that this comes in at right around 9 ounces, which is not terrible. But again, if you're looking for something lighter, a set of Vortex rings with that are 34mm are going to come in almost half the weight. As for the caps themselves, you can see that they are beautifully machined, and there's no visible imperfections to my eyes on any surface. The same thing goes for the mount body itself.
Alright, so the mount is torqued, the rings are torqued, everything is torqued. As you can see, we're really close to zero, even though this doesn't really matter all too much. Let's give this a shot anyway. I'm going to loosen up the front, then the rear cross bolt. You can see now the scope is nice and loose. I'm going to put forward pressure, snug up the front, snug up the rear. I'm now going to torque the front to 40 inch-pounds, then the rear, then the front again, then the rear again. Now, I don't see this until right now. That's basically perfect, fantastic. Let's do this 2 more times. I'm going to loosen up the front, loosen up the rear, loosey-goosey, put forward pressure, compensate for recoil, snugged up the front, snugged up the rear, torquing the front, torquing the rear, torquing the front again, and the rear again. And that looks pretty much on point. The last time for good luck. Loosened up both of them. Forward pressure, snugging up the front, snugging up the rear, torquing the front, torquing the rear, and again. There you have it. Even though this mount is not designed to be removed and installed multiple times, if you do, you know that you should hold your zero. As long as you put it back in the proper pick rail spot consistently each and every time, you're going to have zero problems holding zero. No pun intended.
So there you have it. Though this mount is not really designed to be removed constantly and put back on and off and on and off, at least if you take it off, if you had to, you shouldn't have to worry about your zero getting lost. Again, as long as you put it in the exact orientation and torque it down the exact same way each and every time, it's a good habit to fall into. This LEUPOLD mount is really nice. It's a little heavier than I would like. It's a little bit wider than I would like, but it's got a really good finish. Scope bolts in there perfectly fine, no issues whatsoever, and that's basically all there is to it. It's a good mount. So if you're interested in one, go for it. If not, there's plenty of other options out there, but at least you know what you're getting yourself into if you just so happen to pick one of these up. Anyway, that's all for right now. Scott, thank you so much for sending this in for review, as well as the IOR that's currently residing inside the mount. So thank you very much for sending this in, and thank you all very much for watching. See you again next time. And a very huge thank you to all of my Patreon providers. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. If you'd like to help support the channel but don't want to join my Patreon, I completely understand. But you can still help support by using my affiliate links in the description below. Thanks again for watching.